Alright, so today I want to show you a few tricks on how to bring in a little bit more money when you're selling your ball pythons. And when it comes to pricing of ball pythons, there's really a range from a low end to the high end. For example, if you actually go over to Morphmarket and look up a specific gene or a combination, a lot of times you'll see a big range from the low end to the high end. And a lot of times with just a few little tweaks, you can actually take the needle and move it from the low end towards the high end, depending on some of the things you actually do over on Morphmarket. As a matter of fact, if you actually want to take the low road and sell it for pretty much the least amount of money, you can wholesale your snakes, and that is probably the least amount of work, but you'll definitely make the least amount of money. And everything you do on top of that, you actually add a little bit more work, but sometimes you can have significant gains as far as making more money from your ball pythons. So today I want to jump over the internet and I want to show you a few tips and tricks on how you can make a little bit more money selling ball pythons. Alright, so I'm going to jump over here in the internet, and I first want to start with the easiest way to sell ball pythons, and that is wholesaling them. There are wholesalers on the internet that'll buy every single ball python that you have, and let me tell you, it's the easiest way to sell them because you can sell them all in one shot, but let me tell you, you make the least amount of money selling to a wholesaler. And if you're interested in selling to a wholesaler, let me tell you, it's really easy because you don't have to deal with customers, you don't have to deal with advertising or anything else, you just contact the wholesaler. And a lot of times you can just, pretty much name your price, and sometimes there's a little bit of negotiation as far as the price, as far as what you want for your ball pythons. I'd say probably they'll give you maybe less than 50% of the market value. I'm thinking, because essentially what they do is they buy your ball pythons, and in turn they turn around and sell them to the pet stores, who flip them again and sell them to the public. So you're selling like at the bottom of the food chain as far as the reptile industry. So you get pretty much bottom dollar selling it, but it's really easy because you don't have to worry about customers or advertising or anything like that. And if you actually come over here to this website, this is kingsnake.com, and there's a lot of wholesalers actually advertising over here on Kingsnake. And if you actually come over here under classifieds, you can go to classified ads by category, look at all the different categories as far as what they have over here. And they have, boas, they actually even have venomous snakes over here, and they have ball pythons. I actually went to the classifieds and pulled up the ball python classifieds, and you can just kind of scroll through. As a matter of fact, you can actually advertise some of your snakes over here. And what I did is I actually came down here and take a look at this ad that's highlighted in yellow right here. It says, wanted ball pythons, single, double, and triple genes for pets, which is pretty crazy. So you actually click on this link, and it opens up this ad over here, and yeah, it actually comes over here to this company here, which is the California Zoological Supply. You may not have heard of that. They've actually been in business, it actually says here, for 42 years, and pretty much all they do is buy reptiles and then turn around and sell them to the pet stores. And if you actually read the ads, some of them are really specific over here. This one actually says, we require a minimum of 15 plus snakes per shipment. So you have to have at least 15 ball pythons to ship over here. I've actually seen some over here where they'll have a minimum of 5. Some of them I'll have a minimum of 10. And some of them, a lot of them will actually say, we want you to tell you how much do you want for these ball pythons. And sometimes that can be a little bit of work, because essentially what you have to do is you have to go through all your snakes and figure out what the market value is, and then figure out, how much are they going to cut off of that, like probably less than 50%, I'm thinking, and then you kind of have to negotiate. I've actually seen some people, and what they'll actually do is they'll wholesale through some breeders, and what they'll do is they'll take all their hatchlings and just ship them to one of these big breeders. Of course, they'll have an agreement, and then the breeder will actually figure out how much it's worth and then just send you a check. I've actually seen some YouTube videos of some big breeders, and they get these big shipments of random snakes from all these people breeding ball pythons, and they're acting like a wholesaler. And what they do is they just figure out how much they're worth, how much they can sell them for, how much the markup is, and then they'll just cut the person a check, which is really the easiest way to sell ball pythons. But if you want to make a little bit more money from your ball pythons, pretty much top dollar, what you can actually do is you can come over here on Morphmarket.com. They have a really huge section of ball pythons. As a matter of fact, I actually came over here and looked at all the ones that were for sale. They had like 19,000 ball pythons over here on Morphmarket for sale. And let me tell you, there's a huge range as far as the low end to the high end, and sometimes it can be a little bit confusing. Sometimes it can feel a little bit overwhelming because a lot of times there's so much competition over here, especially for some of your really common genes. Like for example, if you actually had a pastel, there's a lot of pastels over here that you actually have to compete against. And there's a few things you can actually do to increase your chances of selling your snake fast and getting a lot more money from your ball pythons. So I actually came over here, and probably one of the biggest things that I've noticed with probably 90–95% of all these ads over here are really bad pictures. That is probably the #1 thing that I've actually noticed over here. And I was actually going to show you some really bad pictures, but I thought, you know, a lot of people would probably complain if I'm kind of picking out their pictures and say, hey, look at this really bad picture of a snake. And I'd say there's some really bad ones. And let me tell you, if you actually have a pretty decent picture, it's not that hard to actually compete with these guys to actually move your snake up to where people would want to see it and buy it, and not only that, pay a higher price for it just because of the picture. And actually what I actually did is I came over here and I sorted from the sold. I looked at just the sold and from the oldest posted from like 6 years ago, and I kind of wanted to avoid any of the new stuff, and it was pretty amazing. I've never actually sorted like this. The first 100 snakes were actually posted by BHB, which is kind of crazy. This is 101 to 120. BHB pretty much dominated the market over here in Morphmarket for the first like 110 snakes or something like that. And then Bob Clark was actually the next one to post some. So if you actually take a look at some of these pictures, these aren't too bad compared to what I've been seeing lately. A lot of people just kind of throw their snakes on the table, take a really bad picture that's all blurry and sometimes dark and really small, and post it over here thinking they're actually going to sell the snake before their competition's going to sell it. And let me tell you, the picture is the #1 thing. As a matter of fact, I've actually looked at a lot of pictures from Bob Clark here. He pretty much has some of the best pictures. Even early on, you can see some of these are really good looking pictures, which is pretty amazing for 6 years ago. So I kind of wanted to show you this. So this is actually another example of something over here in Morphmarket as far as the pictures. So this picture is really nice. Essentially what I do for my pictures, I actually take a picture from a whole bunch of different angles. I probably take about maybe 20 different pictures, you know, from the top and from the side and all the different angles. And probably one of the biggest things that I really concentrate on when I'm working on the picture is to make sure the snake is relaxed and looks like it's in a comfortable position or in kind of a cute position, which I've seen a lot of people put, you know, snakes over here and they just kind of, you know, they throw them on the table, take a quick picture, and the snake is like all contorted and twisted and does not look like it's comfortable, which I think was a pretty hard selling point. And on this one, as a matter of fact, I'll actually pick on this one a little bit. This one, I think Justin can take a little criticism. Justin Kobelka, you've probably heard of him. A lot of his pictures, it seems like on a lot of them, especially the earlier ones, what I would actually do personally on this is I would take this picture and I would crop all the white from around it. And it's kind of interesting over here in Morphmarket, if you actually have a smaller picture and you come over here and click on it, it'll actually increase the size and blow it up to like a bigger picture where you can really see the snake a lot better. I've seen some people where they'll take almost like a phone picture with their cell phone that's really tall, you know, like a vertical picture up and down. And if you actually come over here on Morphmarket and click on it, it doesn't really zoom in very good. You can almost have to have like a rectangular, like a horizontal kind of a frame on your picture to really get it to blow up. I actually pulled up a picture over here. Take a look at this. I consider this to be the ideal picture over here on Morphmarket. Let me tell you, if you have something like this, just a simple Enchi, and you're competing against everyone else, you can actually, I think you can get a little bit more money for your snake, and you can sell it a lot better than other people, especially if you have a headshot. You know, a lot of people want to see the head and the eyes and the cute little face. I think that really sells a snake. And essentially what I did is take a look at this. This is one of my ads over here. This is what I've been spending a lot of time on my ads over here on Morphmarket, and I think it's really paid off. As a matter of fact, when I post snakes over here, usually they sell within just a few days, you know, because, you know, all the other pictures I'm competing with look nothing like this as far as the quality and the brightness. And a lot of people, you know, when I first started in ball pythons, I was thinking, all right, I'm gonna need a new camera, I'm gonna need some lighting and a studio and all that. And believe it or not, I actually took this picture with just my cell phone, which is pretty amazing. I used my cell phone and an editor as far as editing it. And I kind of wanted to show you real quick how I do it. I do this with all my pictures. I think it's really simple to use your cell phone and an editor. So when I take the picture, essentially what it does, it looks like this. It's not very good. Sometimes I'll actually have some crazy stuff in the background. Sometimes I'll be holding it in my hand and take the picture, and I'll get a really nice looking picture. And then what I'll do is I'll actually put it in to Corel Photo Paint. You can use pretty much any editor over here. And then what I do is I actually go to this, it's kind of like a drawing tool, and I'll go through and I'll black out the background all around the back. I know this is kind of tedious, but you can actually go around the whole snake, and I actually did a mistake right there. You can actually undo it. And what I'll do is I'll get really close, and I'll actually change the brush size, and I'll get really close, and then what I'll actually do is I'll zoom in to about 200, and then I'll change my settings over here. I'll change the size to 20, and then I have transparency of 50 if you're actually using CorelDRAW, and then I'll change the soft edge to 100, and then what I'll do is I'll get really close and just kind of blacken in right up to the sides, just like this. And let me tell you, it doesn't take that long. It takes about 5 minutes to actually do this all around the whole snake, and it makes it look so much better. As a matter of fact, if you take a look at a lot of the pictures that, you know, are from some of the big breeders that have really amazing pictures, and you zoom in on the edges, you can tell this is what they're doing. They're actually going in and just manually doing this. I've actually seen some software where it kind of draws an outline, but in a lot of cases you can't get, you know, the really sharp edge of an outline as far as what you're doing. So this is what I do with all my pictures. I kind of just do this. It doesn't take that long. And then I'll go in and I'll, what I actually do, I'll just show you what I do. I actually add a little bit of contrast, like, you know, maybe 15, and then a little less brightness, like -5. And I pretty much have all the settings as far as what I'm doing. Then what I'll do is I'll go in and add a little bit of sharpness. I'll sharpen it like maybe 5 or something like that, and look at how much better that looks on the contrast between, you know, how it started and where it ends. Let me tell you, once you get the settings and the brush sizes and everything, it takes a little bit to figure out, maybe, you know, a couple days to really figure out, you know, exactly how to do this with the right software. But once you figure it out, you can really crank through these pictures, and let me tell you, you can definitely make some really amazing ads over here on Morphmarket. And the other thing I do with a lot of my snakes, pretty much all my snakes now, is I give them a name. So I actually I actually found some lists of snake names on the internet, and I printed those out, and I went underneath some of my videos and said, hey, why don't you suggest some names for my snakes? And I use kind of gender neutral names, and I name all my snakes a certain name. So you actually see this snake on, you know, you just kind of scroll through and you see this amazing picture of this amazing snake, and then you click on it. That's kind of what draws people in. And then you see the name of the snake, which kind of, you know, gives it a little bit more personality. As a matter of fact, I've only seen maybe 1 or 2 more people over here on Morphmarket naming their snakes. It's not very popular. And I've actually sold some snakes that I sold them just because of the name, which is pretty crazy. And then underneath, pretty much underneath everything down here, I have a description of the snake. And a lot of people actually cut this out. They don't have a description. I think this really helps to not only sell a snake, but I think you can sell, you know, between the name and a really good picture and a really good description, I think you could probably increase the price of your snake with just a little bit of work. Just kind of adding this stuff in. Essentially what I say here is, this boy's name is Poe. He is a Corel yellow pinstripe, 50% het pied, male maker, and I go on to say, you know, a little bit more about the snake, if it's a little feisty and likes to bite everything, or if it's really friendly. And some people actually like the feisty snakes and they'll buy them just thinking, hey, I want to buy this snake just so I can tame it down. And then I'll add some more information as far as how many meals it's had since it's hatched and what I think you should feed it, and it's just some of the background on the snake. So really this wraps up really nice. As a matter of fact, right underneath here, you'll actually see this little YouTube sign right here. And what you can actually do when you go in and post these snakes over here, you can add a link to a YouTube video here. So if you actually click on this, it brings you over here to, it pops up this video about some of these snakes that I have for sale. So this is a video I have over on YouTube with about 15 snakes for sale. So I can use the same video for about, you know, 15 snakes or however many snakes I have in here. If you actually scroll through, you can kind of see all the different snakes that I put in here. And Poe, this snake right here, is in this video. And if you actually take a look at this, so for example, my thumbnails, everything I use, that kind of the photo editor with the blackout all around it, if you actually have a lot of junk and, you know, a lot of stuff right behind it, it's really distracting. And if you black out all the background in your thumbnails and everything, you can get some really amazing thumbnails and pictures for your snake. As a matter of fact, I was actually coming over here. You can actually click on, this is kind of weird. This is my YouTube channel with 38,000 subscribers. I was thinking, you know, it looks like I can actually subscribe to my own channel, which I don't know if YouTube would like it if I subscribe to my own channel. That I just thought it was kind of interesting that that was there. So that is what you should do over here on Morphmarket if you actually want to increase your visibility of your snakes, sell them a lot faster. Let me tell you, if you actually click on something like this and it brings you into all this information, a really good picture, kind of a narrative, you get to know the snake, you can actually see it in a video. Let me tell you, that snake is going to sell a lot faster, and I think you can get some more money for that snake. So here's another thing, a couple more things right at the end if you're selling snakes, and this is a smiley face on your snake. I've actually seen a lot of people kind of listing them over here as, like, for example, this one's actually a leopard emoji pied. So the emoji is the smiley face, and I definitely see a lot of people kind of highlighting the emojis. As a matter of fact, I've seen a lot of people put it in their thumbnails, kind of zoom in on it, and let me tell you that a lot of times that'll sell your snake and that'll bring in some more money if you're trying to increase the price on your snake. And this is the last one over here. I want to show you this too. This is a paradox. A paradox is just kind of a random weird black spot on your snake, or some random weird pattern that just kind of breaks through in one spot. And I've seen a lot of paradoxes sell for quite a bit more than a lot of your just the straight genes without the paradox. So if you have a snake with a paradox, a lot of times you can bump up the snake, the price of the snake, just because of the paradox. All right, so it is time for the question of the day. And New Founding Father asks, how much does Bobby weigh? And that is a very good question. So the snake I have around my neck here, this is Bobby, my male bamboo, and he is 7 years old. As a matter of fact, I actually bought him over on Morphmarket.com, and he is the oldest bamboo that has ever been posted over on Morphmarket, and he's probably the biggest male that I've ever seen. I actually just weighed him, and believe it or not, he's coming in at exactly 2,800 grams, a really big male. It's pretty amazing. As a matter of fact, if you actually have a male ball python that's larger than 2,800 grams, go ahead and leave it in the comment section below. Usually males don't get that big. And when he was pretty small, let me tell you, he would eat like a horse. He was eating quite a bit. And finally, you know, after about 6 years, when he reached about 6 years old, he kind of slowed down. And now I feed him pretty much once a week, sometimes every other week. As a matter of fact, this week he just kind of turned up his nose at the rat. He doesn't really eat that much, and I think he's pretty much at the point where he's not going to get any bigger than this. So that is pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.